What is going on with my bangs? What is happening? My bangs, are we gonna cooperate today? Ta-da! There we go. We did it. We made it. All right. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. How's everyone doing? What's going on? It's 6 o'clock. It's time to stream. We had quite the chatter going on before the stream tonight. We had a lot of little questions. We talked about honey and how to re-liquefy, decrystallize honey. So, anyways, had to go run, do a last second costume change. So, you know, here we are. Happy Friday. All right. I feel like I'm a little bit quieter. No, I just haven't gotten animated yet. We're not animated yet. Ooh, happy birthday! You know, I don't know if you're the same person, but somebody in my stream on Thursday, I think it was Chan that had a birthday today. So, birthdays in the chat. We love it. Hope you're having a good day today. So, let me pull up the YouTubes. Oh my goodness, we have so many people. Hello, everyone. Thank you to all of the early people. Hello, Brady Saint. Hello, Andrew. Hello, Teddy Tiger. Hello, Avery. Hello, Spooky Little Bat. Hello, Switz family. Hello, The Rat. Hello, James. Hello, Harley. Hello, Christiane. Hello, La Macoon. I go for a while and I'm like, I feel confident, and then nope. Hello, Daniel. Hello, Zernicki. Hello, Twixie. Hello, Hellhound. Hello, Love Not Hate. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Hello, Nathan. Glad you could make it today. Yeah, glad you guys could make it. Yeah, I guess spank the like button. I'm not entirely sure what liking a live stream does, but I like to imagine it does something. It helps something. We'll see if it does anything of value, but... Okay. So, Q&A today, as per usual. If you're new here, hello, welcome. Please read the rules down below. There's a whole FAQ just full of things to know, things to be aware of. Basically, be nice, don't spam the chat, and if you do have a more basic question about, you know, how do I tell my girlfriend I want to do this thing? How do I tell my boyfriend I want him to dominate me? Where do I buy a vlogger? What are BDSM books you recommend? Things along those lines. It's in the FAQ. Check it out. It's newly updated. It's refreshed. Links are all doing what they should be doing, as far as I'm aware. And that's good to check out. This is an 18 plus only stream, so if you're not at least 18, please do not be here. This is just for adults. It's an adult only zone. Come back when you are 18. If it's your 18th birthday, welcome. Happy birthday. So those are the things to know. Just really briefly, this is an FAQ in general. We can talk about anything you guys want to. Asexuality, BDSM, kink, play, polyamory, anime, whatever. We don't give medical advice. We don't give mental health advice. Those are for professionals. But basically, within those realms, that's what we talk about. That's what we're here to do. And sometimes we give cooking advice, like how to decrystallize your honey when it's not microwave safe. So, you know, you get a little bit of everything here. One of my partners and I did an amazing birthday scene today. I got cake smashed in my face and we did some fun body writing. It was so amazing. I did a very similar scene once for one of my birthday years. It was really, really fun. I don't remember if I did the body writing and the cake smashing wet and messy scene on the same day, but it was really fun. Definitely recommend it. Ice cream cake can get a little bit dicey. It was an ice cream cake, I believe. But it was still fun. Still a fun time. You can even add in extra layers, literally, I guess, with, you know, chocolate sauce, wax play, whipped cream. You know, you can really take it to the next level if you want to. It's very sweet. Okay, so really quickly as well, I do answer questions in the order they come in. I do have just some general topics in the live stream title, kind of based on the fact I did an Instagram Q&A earlier this week, and I'm not really on Instagram anymore because it's super easy to get your account deleted. Oh my gosh! Thank you so much. There we go.
Greetings. Any ideas on dealing with burnout, isolation?
Good question. So, that is a super chat slash why am I forgetting the word? Super chat, which is through YouTube, or a Streamlabs donation, which is also down below, and it will read out your message, and then we can talk about it. And I do answer questions in order, except if you get a super chat and it pops up on the screen, you go to the top of the line. So, burnout and isolation. I'm assuming you mean in a kink context, not in like a office job burnout context, because I'm less familiar with that. But in a kink context, I think it's really important to remember that what we do, even if you're doing like what other people would call, I don't know why my camera is just like, what is up with the focusing today, camera? Like, get it to, like, you don't need to focus. Like, it's every single time I put my hand up, it wants to focus on my hand. It's like on the spot with the hand. Maybe I messed with the focus settings and I didn't realize I did. Oh well, I'll just try to keep my hands out of the way. So I am a hand talker, that's a problem. But in a kink sense, I think it's important to remember that even if the scenes you're doing would be considered by other people to be like light scenes, you know, where, oh, you know, you're just doing a spanking, you're just doing sensation play, you're just doing light bondage, you're just, you know, whatever, like something that other people would not consider to be very physically intense. BDSM is still very mentally intense, and it can be, anyways, not always, but it can be very mentally intense, it can be very emotionally intense, and you still go through those ups and downs of feelings when it comes to, you know, your body's basically reacting to this intense experience you're having internally, and there's always a delay between when your body's like spiking up its reaction and then after you start to come down from it, like you stop the activity, there's always a delay before it catches up to when the activity's over. And when you do that over and over and over again enough times, and you're constantly kind of, you know, getting this delayed response, and you're not really going back fully to your natural equilibrium maybe before you play again. And this can happen in like a small way if you're going to conventions or you're doing like some kind of intensive weekend where you're, you know, 2, 3, 4 days of doing a lot of BDSM activities, which can be really fun and really exciting, but because you're not getting back to your reset place, you're not getting back to your baseline, that can make it more difficult to like fully recover. And then by the end of all of it, you're really behind on how recovered you should be, and you end up kind of just, you know, you just end up not being able to, you know, you're like, is kink really for me? I feel really tired and bad and gross. And the reason why that's probably the case is because your body's just not able to catch up the way that it would normally be able to. But you did also mention isolation, and so that's another interesting thing, which it could not even just be like, okay, well, you got burned out because you physically did too much, which is like one aspect of burnout, is you're just sort of doing so much all the time and you're not fully resetting, you're not fully relaxing. And that's the thing, it's really hard because BDSM feels nice. That's why most of us do it, is because it feels good mentally, emotionally, sexually, otherwise. And so it's hard to just like stop, especially in the beginning, and go, hey, let's take a break, let's recover, and let's maybe, you know, just keep things where they are, not try to do everything all at once, and just take it a little slower. And that can be really hard to do. But then there's also sort of burnout that comes from like the frustration of maybe not being able to do kink as much as you want to. Maybe because we're not that far into the conversation, let me just scroll through here real quick and just see if I see any like follow-up comments to make sure I'm on like the right track with answering this. So I'm not seeing any, but if there are any follow-up things, I'll keep an eye out for it, because I want to make sure that, you know, I'm actually answering the question at hand. But I would say that you can also have that feeling of frustration if you're not getting to do kink in the way that you want to do it, and you are feeling really isolated, and you're like, oh my gosh, because I've had this feeling a lot myself, you know, with COVID and everything. Oh my gosh, I'm never going to find another like new play partner I really click with. I'm not going to be able to go to dungeons again. I'm not going to meet a new community of people that I'm going to be able to, just have that same bond and connection with it I used to, like in the area I used to live in, like pre-COVID. And that is a really hard thing to deal with, because sort of the typical advice you would get is like, oh, you just need to find like happiness in yourself. And I give that kind of advice as well. Like, I do think you need to have, a baseline of like some level of self-esteem before you do BDSM, just for your own like well-being. But BDSM is by its very nature, if you don't get fulfillment from solo play, and some people do and some people don't, it is very hard to feel fulfillment when you can't be around other people. And so that was like the solution is to be around other people. But even in the times that we live in, where like not even if places are open again where you live, because different places in the world are in different stages of opening or closing down, and monkeypox and everything else. So I'll try not to make any assumptions, but even if places are fully reopened, like there's oh, thank you. I will get to this.
BC of this, I'm worried about not safe wording when I should in a scene. Do you have any tips for how to get more comfortable saying no?
I do. I love this question. So I will wrap up this one, which is I will just say that lots of dungeons have closed down. Lots of conventions are no longer happening. There's lots of events and things that we used to look forward to as a time to meet people and be together with other people that are just not available as opportunities anymore. And the sort of replacement for that is we do have a lot of online spaces. There are Discord chats. I have a Discord chat. We do have FetLife groups. We do have people that are organizing stuff for, local things on FetLife. So people that it's just for local groups, but their invites are on FetLife, and you can join munches that are local but remote, like they're online. And that might be a good way to reconnect with people. If you haven't tried that before, I might recommend doing that, because that can help resolve some of the isolation and kind of help you get your confidence back up before you go in person. So I would also say, to sort of wrap up my initial thought, which is the burnout from doing too much kink too close together. It's a really stupid solution because it's so simple, but really it is just like space out your play. No different play affects people very differently. So it's also sort of individually learning what scenes require what extent of aftercare for you. And maybe if you're doing, let's say you tolerate rope bondage super well and you don't typically need a lot of aftercare for it, you're kind of just like ready to go after it's over. This is how it is for me, so that's why I'm using it as an example. Like, you're kind of just like ready to go. Okay, then maybe you can do more scenes like that, kind of closer together. But maybe when it comes to like caning or corporal punishment or something like that, it takes a lot out of you and you feel more exhausted. You feel like you need more aftercare afterwards. Like, take that as a sign to go, okay, I need to space this out more. And maybe instead of doing like a scene, every day of the weekend, do like one a weekend, or do, two, but more maybe like spaced out. You do like one on a Friday and like one on a Sunday, or one on a Friday and one on a Wednesday. Like, if you have the opportunity to play kind of more towards the middle of the week, and just space things out more, make it so you're not kind of compressing your body's ability to fully recover, and just focus on those good things that help you just feel better. And this this is true for like workout recovery, like really intense physical activities, like anything like that. This is basically universal advice, but kink is also similarly intense and does also drain our body. So, you gotta make sure you're staying hydrated. This is #not sponsored. I love this water bottle. This has changed my life. Like, I have been chronically dehydrated for probably years. It's been years since I've been fully hydrated. And, I find it, I do not have, and I don't know if there's a term for this. If I don't drink water, I do not have a sense of thirst. Like, if I'm actually dehydrated, I lose my ability to actually feel thirsty or not, and so I don't remember to drink. And this has been absolutely fantastic for remembering to drink enough water. It has nice little affirmations on the side if you have like a praise kink and you want somebody to tell you, you got this at 6 p.m. It's built-in praise kink from your water bottle. But, I like it. It's like the perfect size for me. It's not too heavy. It comes in fun colors. Like, it's easy to clean. It's all the good stuff you can get on Amazon. But, if you're somebody who's like me and your aftercare things, right? You want to make sure you're getting enough sleep, stay hydrated, eat good food. If your thing is you are not good at staying hydrated, like me, get a cool water bottle, get something that's like a pretty decent size, and then just, and, remember to drink water, stay hydrated. It seems cheesy, like it seems like the advice you would get for like a soccer game. Like if you're like, oh, our big little league soccer game is on Friday, like make sure you're hydrated. But it's like, no, it really does. Like your brain and your body, when you are recovering from, a loss of, I don't know if it's hormones or neurotransmitters, like what the proper term would be, but when your body is recovering from, the loss that results from, extreme output, like you need the raw materials to do that, and one of the raw materials is water. So drink the water. That's really the advice. But yeah. Yes, I have noticed though, this is the thing, is if you're like me and you have trouble feeling thirsty when you don't drink enough water to begin with, I don't know if there's a reason for this. And I've meant to look this up. Maybe there's like a Reddit, explain to me like I'm 5 type thing. But since I've started drinking this, now I feel thirsty, which is weird because I'm more hydrated. And it's like, why do I feel thirsty if I'm more hydrated than I was when I didn't feel thirsty and I wasn't? How does that happen? Anyways, somebody knows, let me know. But getting to Avery's question, really, really great question. So feeling confident in saying no is like one of the things that seems really easy, but is also surprisingly hard to do at the same time if you're not naturally good at it. I have friends and people I know where they are just super confident. They will say no whenever they feel like they need to say it. They're going to speak their truth, and they're going to tell you, to your face, what they feel and think about something. But if you're somebody who's maybe a little bit more passive or shy, or maybe you have like rejection sensitivity dysphoria, or is it, dysphoria, I think it's RSD. It's one of the, if you know what it is, you know what it is. But if you're somebody who deals with like, you're afraid of rejection, you maybe had negative experiences in the past where when you said no, that no wasn't respected, or somebody reacted in a very like a disproportionate and extremely negative way, of course you're gonna feel worried about what happens if I try this again. And first of all, that's part of this question, and that's part of what happened to you or anyone listening right now in the chat. I'm really, really sorry that happened to you. It is really scary to say no when you know in the past your no hasn't been respected, and you might try to like weasel your way around saying no while kind of like non-verbally being like, I don't want to do this. So I totally get that. It's very understandable. I think it's really important, if you have the opportunity to do so, you can also do this by yourself, but I think it's more value when you can do it with a partner you trust. If you can do basically fire drills for saying the word no, and you just have times, you just have scenes where you say to your, like, okay, let me walk you through the process. I have a couple videos about how to say no, if you haven't seen those. They don't have a lot of views because obviously the topic is like, people aren't excited about like learning how to say no, but it is important, which is why I have made videos about it. So search for it on the channel after the stream's done if you want to check it out. But basically, you got to get comfortable on like all levels, like psychologically, with your body saying the word no, because oftentimes we have like tense and anxious body reactions to saying the word no that can make it harder to say the word no. And also, I will say, if this is like boundary related, if you feel like you don't have strong boundaries, I have this just permanently by my desk now because I keep referencing it. The Better Boundaries Workbook. It's a CBT based program, and it has like tons of great like follow along questions and stuff in here, and it really helps you if you're struggling with saying no and boundaries in a larger way than just like, I'm afraid I can't say no to like, a BDSM scene. Like, this might be really helpful for you, especially if you can't afford or can't access therapy for some reason. So maybe look into that. But you gotta like kind of get used to saying no on all levels, because of oftentimes, as I was trying to say before I interrupted myself, You gotta get comfortable saying no sort of with your whole body, because even if you can kind of practice saying the word no, but your body is kind of like resisting saying it, like you feel really tense, you feel very anxious in your body, the first thing you gotta do is you gotta do a little body scan, go from your head down your body to the tips of your toes, and just monitor any feelings you experience. Like, are you really tight in your chest? Do you feel pain in your stomach? Are your shoulders like all hunched up? Are you clenching your fists? Like, are you trying to, like, squeeze your toes together as hard as you can? Like, are you doing something in your body to like hide tension and hide anxiety? Do what you can, go body part by body part, and just fully relax. Maybe listen to some nice relaxing music, take some deep breaths. I'm not saying to like do any fancy meditation stuff, but just like feel how your body feels. Relax from that anxiety, and then just think in your head, no. Just keep repeating the word no in your head over and over again until it starts to lose kind of the meaning behind the word no. But what you're doing is you're getting into a relaxed state while saying the word no to break that neural pathway in your brain that says saying the word no is anxiety provoking, and I need to be anxious and ready and like physically ready for the word no and something bad happening. So you're teaching your body that you can say the word no and stay relaxed at the same time, which will help you make better decisions. So you're going to say the word no to yourself in your head, and it's going to feel really stupid, but trust me, okay, if we're dealing like baseline, cannot say the word no, this is the place we're starting from. Then you start to build it up more to where maybe you say it out loud, like under your breath, you go, no, no. No, just like maybe make it a little bit fun, maybe do different intonations of the word no, maybe visualize a scenario where you would want to be able to say the word no, and just practice saying the word no. You can do it by yourself in the shower, you can do it in the car by yourself, you can do it, under your breath while you're wearing a mask, just practice saying the word no. And again, keep that relaxed body state. If you start to feel anxious and you feel like you're starting to clench up and you're getting nervous about saying the word no, stop. Do a body scan, relax your body, take some deep breaths, and then practice saying the word no some more. Then, this is where it's helpful to have a partner. You can do it to yourself in the mirror and kind of do a little role play back and forth of like practice saying the word no, but you can also, instead, you can have a partner, you can start to say the word no to them. And this is something you'll see sometimes in BDSM dungeons when they are, introducing new people and doing an orientation is, if anybody was raised Catholic, the part of Mass where you have to go and like say peace be upon you to each other and like shake hands, during the Mass. It's very similar to that, where you go around to different people in the room and, one person requests something and you say no matter what it is. And then you do the same in reverse, and then you go around and do somebody else. It's the same thing. But you can do it either by yourself in the mirror of just like practicing saying no to yourself on like kind of another face, or ideally with a different person. And then they can say, hey, do you want to go out for coffee? Hey, would you like it if I tied you up? Hey, would you step on my balls? Like whatever it is, like practice saying different scenarios and different things, and just practice saying the word no to them. And this is important. Have them react in a positive way. Have them just say, oh, okay, thanks for your time. Or, okay, good, thanks for letting me know. Or, okay, maybe we can do something else instead. Like, just have them practice saying something in a positive way, and it not being a big deal, not being an opera moment, not being anything, just letting the word no exist and just saying okay and then moving on. And then the more you do this, the more you practice saying the word no and you're desensitizing your brain and your body to the word no, you eventually feel more confident in being able to say the word no during a scene. And this is where we get to doing the fire drill scenes where we're specifically looking at saying no in a BDSM context. So what I would recommend doing, this is more if you feel like an established partner. I wouldn't do this with a new partner because it can be kind of confusing. But if you have a more established partner that you do kink stuff with sometimes, I would recommend, or maybe you develop this relationship and you tell the person, this is the other thing. I would say, okay, time out. I'm going to interrupt myself. Important note. If you haven't done BDSM before and you're getting into doing BDSM scenes for the first time and you're afraid that you won't be able to say the word no, and you have to be very cautious about this, but when you're in the negotiation process, I would probably bring up that like, hey, I'm newer to doing BDSM. This is going to be my first scene. I'm worried that I might be like lost in the moment and I might not be able to like say a safe word or say no when I need to. And the way you work around that is you do very small very small, very short scenes with lots of check-ins where your partner is directly asking you and giving you opportunities to say, yes, I like this, or no, I don't, in a non-judgmental way. But as you start to build up more of a BDSM relationship and you do want to do more complicated scenes where it is more risky if you can't say the word no when you want to or need to, then you have to start doing kind of more of the fire drill practice where you are just doing scenes where the intention is for you to say no. Like you're like, okay, so we're going to go on the spanking horse and we're going to set you up like we would do normally for a spanking. But before I start the spanking, I want you to interrupt me and say, I'm sorry, sir, I can't do a spanking right now. Or say, no, actually, I don't want you to do this anymore. Or after you start the spanking, 3 spanks in, I want you to say no. Stop spanking me, or red, or safe word, or if you want to use plain English, do that. If you want to use a safe word, use that. But practice saying it in the actual like context that you're doing it. If you've heard the advice, and you probably have, if you went to college, you've probably heard this, that it can be very advantageous to study in the location that you're going to take the test in because of location-dependent memory. And this is sort of, in a way, in my mind, I'm not a psychologist, I haven't studied this, but I am using the theory of like location-dependent memory to sort of enable this, which is if you are doing things in the context that the situation would arise that you're afraid of, be that, you know, doing it during rope bondage or on a spanking horse or in your bed or whatever, like get something that's close to the scenario where you would see, you know, or where this could happen. And then just practice saying the word no, because that's going to be as close as possible to what you're actually going to, you know, that you are afraid you could possibly experience of not being able to say no. And then you know that you've said no in that space before, which is all really what we want to hear. So that is what I would do, you know, work your way up to that and just practice it. And it's like the most important thing you can really have is a supportive partner that wants you to say no, that encourages you to use your words, that has check-ins. And that's something that you should talk about during a negotiation is say, hey, like I'm newer. I would really appreciate it if during our scene we could work in some check-ins. How would you want to do that? And then you have a conversation about what kind of check-ins you'd want to have, how frequently you want to have them, and you know, take that into account with like the rest of the scene you're doing, because you don't need like 3 check-ins if you're doing a 5-minute scene. But that is generally the idea, is you just want to get as comfortable as you can physically with the words. That way you can say it and know that you're getting a positive response and that the person isn't like rejecting you or being mean or lashing out because you said the word no. So, and then the really important thing underlying all of this is if you do not trust someone to respect your no, don't play with them. That is very important. You don't have to play with anyone just because they approach you or send you a FetLife message or they're really popular where you live or they own the dungeon you're going to or literally any other reason. You do not have to play with anyone. You don't have to say yes to everything. It's okay to say no to the idea of a scene itself and not go farther than that. So, all of that being said, that's my advice for saying no. I have videos where I've talked about this in more detail about the steps, and I'm sure I missed a couple, but that's kind of the broad strokes of, you know, the background behind it, why I think it works, and it's something that I also struggle with. Like, when it comes to actually, and this is, I don't know if anyone else will relate to this, but I actually find it's easier to say no to partners that I don't have an intimate attachment to than partners that I do. Because the risk is higher. Like, if it's somebody that I don't really know that well, and they're just kind of like a casual play partner, and we're just doing BDSM to have fun for each other, and we're not like, you know, we're just sort of hanging out, it's way easier to just say no, because it's like, well, if they do react badly, I don't really like, I'm not going to be upset that relationship isn't there anymore because, okay, they were an asshole and I'm going to move on. But if it's a committed relationship where we're together long term or we've been playing together for a really long time, like I want to keep that relationship. And so it can feel harder to say no because you're maybe worried about them getting bored with you or maybe wanting to replace you or that they're not going to be as interested in you anymore or they're going to be upset that you're not letting them do the things they want to do, you know, yada, yada, yada. So that is why I think it'd be hard to say no in a more committed relationship, but you do have the advantage of having somebody that you know really well that you can have more explicit like consent conversations with. So that is what I would say about that. All right, Thank you all so much for the question so far. Let's get on to another question. Ooh, you started a habit tradition of painting your nails during it, which is great because I actually take the time to do it well. Great tip. I love it. That's perfect. I have taken a break from nail polish temporarily, and I am just doing like a strengthening treatment on them because I've been doing a lot of yard work and my nails don't like that. So, you know, I feel ya. Have fun doing your nails. Looking forward to hearing your opinions on non-sexual kink. Okay, well, on that front, I will ask, do you guys have any questions about non-sexual kink? Because during the Instagram live stream that I did, I got several questions about non-sexual BDSM and like, how can kink be asexual? Like, how can kink be non-sexual? So if people want to talk about that, they have specific questions, I would love to answer them. But it's not technically a question, so I'm going to keep going until I see a question, and then maybe we'll like loop back around to that one. Okay, good question, Christian. Would you say that 50 Shades series is an okay watch/read if you slowly look at it for the purpose of entertainment fantasy and not as something that should be viewed as educational/informative? I mean, I feel like you kind of hit the nail on the head, so to speak, with that, I don't know what's going on with my bangs. I did something wrong. I don't know what I did wrong, but I was redoing my hair today. We're on like day 3 hair, but I rewashed my bangs because I didn't want to look like a greasy mess. So they're just doing their own thing today. But I think you hit the nail on the head. 50 Shades of Grey is a series that people have very strong opinions about. And I think now that we're a couple years out from the peak of the notoriety of the series and we're on to like bigger and better things, hopefully, people I think have softened their opinions on it a little bit. And initially when it first came out, I think there was very, very strong rejection of no, this is not educational BDSM. This is a toxic, abusive relationship. No one should ever look to this. It's bad to read it. This is poisoning the minds of the youths and the middle-aged women and the grandmothers. Disgusting. How could anyone read this garbage? And that was sort of the opinion on it, was that it was terrible. It had no merit whatsoever. No one should read it. Like, bring back book burnings. Like, that was sort of the opinion on it. And I think for a while I had that opinion as well, because at the time I was in university still, and I had a roommate that was a big fan of sporking. If people remember LiveJournal, that was like the LiveJournal version of like roasting or like YouTube debates, but in like LiveJournal format. And so she was very deep into like the sporking of 50 Shades of Grey, despite not being into kink herself whatsoever, which I found to be quite funny. But she was really into that. And so that was actually my initial exposure to 50 Shades of Grey, was just like these people lambasting, that's what it is, I think, right? They were roasting the shit out of this book series page by page, like basically cinema sensing the entire book series. And that definitely left me with a very, 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 very negative opinion. To be fair, they're not good books, but I think now looking back on it, I think we were really afraid at the time that like, oh my gosh, this is going to ruin BDSM culture. This is going to make it so, all of our dungeons get flooded with these, posers and wannabes, and straight couples just want to come in and have sex and then leave, or do dangerous shit without learning about it first, and, spankings and stomach whippings and whatever other shit is in that book series, and that's going to be really bad. And now that we've all kind of seen what's kind of come out in the wash, what's actually happened is there's been a lot of people that tried BDSM once. Maybe they went to a munch, maybe they went to a dungeon, but for the most part, they went to just a commercial mainstream sex toy store. They bought, a really cheap $15, faux leather paddle or nipple clamps or something from the bachelorette section, and they went home and they tried it once and then never did it again. And so for the most part, people that got into BDSM or wanted to try it because of 50 Shades of Grey didn't really stick around with it. It was kind of like just a novelty, a fantasy, a thing to kind of play with. And if they weren't into it, they didn't stick with it. But you also had a smaller minority of people that read 50 Shades of Grey And then whenever they did more research about it, like, you could not avoid dialogue about this. If you typed in 50 Shades of Grey BDSM on Google, you, like, there was no avoiding it. You would just see everyone's critiques of it. You would see everyone roasting it. You would see all of the many think pieces and blog articles and videos of people outlining how terrible it was and to not use it as educational advice. And so I think because of that, there are a lot of people that found BDSM through 50 Shades. And thank you, Andrew. I will get to that in a moment. The partner I met on vacation, we're meeting again this October. December? We're both excited to play again, but I have jitters at, like, was this first time excitement and we don't click as well as second time? Is that normal concern? I will get to that. I will finish my 50 Shades of Grey rant first. But 50 Shades of Grey, it definitely brought people into the community, but the people it brought in, for the most part, everyone that I've met that, like, will sheepishly admit, yeah, I kind of got into kink around the time of, like, 50 Shades of Grey, but, like, people that will do that, they researched, they found classes, they found educational resources, they were part of their community, and they learned better. And so I think that's all we can really ask for. Now, did people try BDSM at home and do dangerous shit and probably hurt each other in ways we don't know about because it was like a private vanilla couple in their own home? Probably yes, but they're not part of the BDSM community. So, like, they don't, no skin off my nose. Like, they don't really affect me in any way. There's something I can do about what people do in their private homes. So, can't really worry about that one too much. But I think now, when the stage that we're at, I think it's entirely possible to read 50 Shades of Grey just as, like, a funny, hilarious book that's kind of, like, cringy and good at the same time.
Twixie Short $5. Having a friend on the other side of the slash to help you with the stuff you're afraid to work on with an
good point.
For some reason can be really helpful if you can find one.
Yes, that is also very true. People talk about, like, oh, you should find a mentor, you should find a trainer, and and that usually means an S-type being trained or mentored by a D-type. If you can find someone who ideally lives where you live and you can, like, meet and talk in person, and they're on the same side of the slash as you, dominant, submissive, top, bottom, whatever, that can be really, really helpful. I do recommend that. So it can be a good time. So 50 Shades of Grey, I think if you're just looking at it as an entertainment, funny thing in the way you would, like, watch The Room, or you're aware that it's, like, a trashy erotica that has, like, bad shit in it. Because I will tell you, I have gone on an adventure myself reading various different types of erotica. And a lot of them are worse than 50 Shades of Grey in certain respects. Like, they can be worse in that they try to do more, if that makes sense. Like, they try to be better, and because they try to do more, they kind of fail harder in some areas. But I've certainly read worse, or, like, what I would call erotica that is more offensive to, like, the BDSM community. Because one of the things that 50 Shades of Grey never did is they never tried to portray, like, a community dungeon or, like, a group thing. They never tried to do anything other than basically the most vanilla accessible version of doing BDSM, which is on your own, alone, in the privacy of your own home with your single partner. And there's other erotica that's sort of inspired by 50 Shades of Grey in the sense of, like, I can do that better. Where they have tried to be more diverse or be like, I'm going to show you what a BDSM dungeon is like. And then they do it. And they do it in a really bad or scary way, which I actually sort of dislike more. Because I don't even think the topic of, like, public dungeons came up in 50 Shades of Grey. So, that makes it a little bit easier to overlook certain things. But yeah, I think that for the most part, it can be just if you can read it that way, if you are capable of enjoying it as just lighthearted entertainment, it doesn't make you want to internally implode, then sure, yeah, you can read it for fun. And I think everyone by now is, unless you're, like, completely off of the internet, like if you're a random 50-year-old and you don't have the internet, you don't have Facebook or anything like that, then you're not going to really know what the critiques of it are, but then, like, I'm not going to be able to influence you to not read it, so sort of a moot point there. But I think anyone that is on the internet that would be looking for advice about reading 50 Shades of Grey or would be concerned about it, I think that they're going to very easily run into the critiques, and so I don't really worry about that as much. I have to agree that 50 Shades is actually somewhat erotica, or is actually tame for trashy erotica. It really is, though. I read some stuff where I'm like, oh, what? 50 Shades reads like the Twilight fanfiction that it was originally. Well, that's because they literally didn't change anything from the fanfiction. They literally just, like, Control F replaced, like, all of the names. And that was, like, basically what they did. I think maybe some place names and stuff got edited. But they basically just replaced the names and then kept everything else. They didn't add any sort of like, hey, we need to like bridge these two chapters together, or like what happens to this plot point. And I think, you know, to be fair, if they had wanted to put more effort into it, if she had, you know, if her ego would have allowed her an editor, she probably could have had a much better book, because at least there would have been some like continuity and maybe some, you know, plots that got cut or things that maybe ended up making more sense, and cutting out filler, and like that's a lot of the problems with the original books. But I will say, I actually might recommend reading the Grey trilogy, which is the books but written from Christian's perspective, because those ones do have more editing in them, and they might be more tolerable than the originals because they came out after, you know, the whole series had been written and after it was a fan fiction. So that would be what my recommendation is, if you want to read it personally. But you don't have to. I don't even think you really need to, honestly. That's what she's great though. Okay, let's get to Andrew's question. So the partner I met on vacation, we're meeting again this October. We're both excited to play again, but I have jitters like, was this first time excitement and we won't click as well the second time? Is this a normal concern? Yes, I think whenever you've met somebody who's like really exciting and you're really into them and you're like, oh my God, I better not mess this up, because if I mess it up, my whole life's going to be over. I'm never going to find anyone like them ever again. I think it is very normal to have the reaction of, oh my gosh, I better not mess up. I better not do anything wrong. However, I would say that you shouldn't necessarily just like live. Oh, thank you.
Hi, Evie, sending love. Started accepting myself as asexual and demi-romantic.
Yay, the asexuality acceptance. We love to see it. Congratulations, Mr. Beansman. I love it. Asexual and demi-romantic. I'm sure there's many of you in the house right now. But yes, so basically I will just say, I'll try to keep this one shorter. It is very normal to have that reaction of like worrying you're not going to click again, but you can't let that fear get in the way of having a good time. So I think it's, this is my advice generally when it comes to dealing with anxiety, is I think you got to like introspect and be like, okay, what is this fear trying to help me to do? Because a lot of people just think anxiety is like this enemy that you have to like beat down and overcome. But I think, you know, if you understand anxiety, for the most part, I'm not going to say always, but for the most part, unless you've got something, you know, clinical with like, you know, just random, you know, invasive thoughts, which is different. For the most part, anxiety that's reactive to a certain scenario is trying to help you in some way. It's trying to keep you away from harm. It's trying to, you know, help you from feeling bad feelings. It's trying to warn you about something. Like, it's trying to, in some way, be beneficial. And so I think you gotta, okay. Let's reflect on how I'm thinking about this. What is my anxiety trying to do by making me feel worried that maybe we won't actually click? And I think, you know, kind of on a surface level evaluation, it's probably trying to keep you away from, like, you know, being rejected or being let down by the other person, or letting down other people and being a disappointment. It's trying to protect you from, like, I guess maybe overall like a fear of failure, you know, of like failure in a relationship sense, and then like fear in an accomplishment sort of sense. And I think you have to just go, okay, hey anxiety, what's going on? What's going on, anxiety? Thank you for that information. I acknowledge that you were trying to help me and that you were trying to prevent me from feeling harm. You gotta trust me. I got this. I'm going to handle it. We don't need to worry about that stuff. Thank you for the message. This is what I'm going to do to help mitigate these fears, right? Listen to what those fears are. Don't try to fight it necessarily and say, that's wrong. It's stupid. I'm going to worry about this. No one else would worry about this. Like, don't do that kind of thing. But just kind of softly acknowledge, I see what you're trying to do. I see when the anxiety is there. Thank you for the information. We're going in a different direction. Like, you know, be like, hey, brain, trust me. I got this. Everything's going to work out. And you know what? Even if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. Because it is a little bit hard to live up to sort of like, it's like the sophomore album for bands, like if you have a freshman single or a freshman like LP that goes really, really well. I like how it's censored whatever it was that question was. Oh, goodness. Well, thank you. Oh, somebody asked what a rim job is. That is also called analingus. Although I think specifically analingus that doesn't involve penetrating into the anal cavity. So imagine cunnilingus, but on the butt. And that's what a rim job is. But externally, usually, as opposed to going inside the cave, Oh, jeez. Oh my gosh! Good morning from a Korean subscriber. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. God, I feel so stupid. I used to be able to read Hangul, but now I can't read it anymore. I had to... I used to be able... And, like, Korean's very... Like, when you learn what, like, how Hangul works, it's very easy to read. Like, you're like, oh, this is, like, better than English. Like, why are all languages not like this? Because it's separated by syllables. But anyways, thank you for being here. Good morning. Yes, chat with your anxiety and just like, because I find anxiety is like those like finger trap games, where you try to pull away from it and it gets harder to get out. Anxiety is like that. The harder you try to rip yourself away from the anxiety and go, no, I don't want anxiety. The more the anxiety is holding on, because going, no, you're not listening to me. Listen to me. I have something important to say. And then you're not listening to it. It's going to try so hard. It's going to dig in. It's going to go, hey, listen to me. You're not listening to me, you dumbass. I'm trying to help you. And so it can actually paradoxically make the anxiety worse the more you try to separate yourself from it. But when you go into the anxiety, go, hey, what's going on here? Let's check in. What are these worries? What are these fears? Where is that coming from? What are you trying to help me with? It goes from being like this to being like this, and then you can separate and release. So don't do this. Come together and then separate. You can go, hey, this is going to be okay. Thanks for the warning. We're going in this direction. Don't worry about it. And hopefully that should help a little bit. It's totally normal to have some nerves and fears, especially with what I was trying to say about like, it's like the sophomore album. It's a follow-up to, a really, really popular freshman album that everyone really loved. And you're like, how am I going to make this as good the second time? And I totally get that anxiety. And I think you got to remember that every scene experience is different. I sometimes get asked, like, what's my favorite BDSM experience? Or what's the best BDSM scene I've ever had? And it's a really hard question to answer because, again, every scene is so different in terms of energy or activities or the person I was playing with, where it's very difficult to go, okay, well, that one had this in it, and I really like that, but that one also this, and then that was really special, and that wasn't that intense, but it was the person I was really in love with, and, like, it's hard to just categorize, what is best or what would be better. And so instead of, like, feeling like, can I live up to the same thing again, realize that every scene, and this is for everyone, like, realize that every scene is an individual experience that's separate and different from any of the other ones that happened before it. Don't worry about living up to expectations. Don't worry about, like, making it as good as the last time, because you can't do that. It's so individual. The music, the room temperature, the mood you're both in. Are you playing in public or at a dungeon? What is everyone else doing? Did you, like, go out to dinner before? There's a million little factors that you can't necessarily control for that all contribute into going into that scene. So just worry about having a good scene for that time and that place with that person, but don't worry about it being the best or being better as good as last time. Just let it be whatever experience it is. And you know what? Even if you have a bad scene, even if it doesn't go well as the first time, even if you make a mistake, you drop something, bodily functions happen, whatever, you can just laugh it off. It's just one scene. It's not the end of the world. And if you guys really, really do have a deeper connection emotionally, mentally, in terms of how you play together, one scene is not going to be the make or break of, like, if you guys are ever going to talk again or if you guys are going to be partners or not. So don't worry about it. Don't stress too much. It's not the end of the world. You're allowed to worry a little bit. You can worry a little bit, but don't worry so much it's going to get in the way of you having a good time. Okay, so I'm trying to think. I think we're at all the questions. I think we got to everything. So, thank you so much for the question, Andrew. Okay, loving all the super chats. Thank you all so much. Let's get into another question. I literally haven't made it to even the end of before the stream started. Oh my god. Oh. You know what? I would love to try VTubing at some point. You know, maybe one day my stream will just be I'm a VTuber. That'd be fun. The first BDSM VTuber. Ooh, welcome, James. Hope you love it. Thanks for joining us. Okay, we have the birthday scene. Oh, okay, great question. What are some safety precautions if your subspace usually involves loss of speaking communication ability? Man, we are just on the path of like good communication today, and I love this. Okay, so first of all, the number one thing you should do is always talk to your partner. Don't let it be a surprise to them that you may go nonverbal during a scene. Of course, there's always going to be a first time, right? So you might not, but you know, I'm talking in a general way. Some people that end up going nonverbal in a scene might not know that until they go into a scene where they go nonverbal. And so, yes, there's going to be a first time you wouldn't know to communicate it yet. But once you've had it happen before, I think it's really important to communicate to a partner in a future scene, especially if it's not the person you were playing with when you went nonverbal. You know, just so you know, for me, my subspace is nonverbal. I may not be able to fully communicate to you. I might not be able to remember a safe word. I might not respond to check-ins, like whatever that like nonverbal thing means to you. Because that could mean you are literally mute and you will not make any noise. And you won't be able, you're not going to be like contactable. You're going to be on, you know, some other planet over here. You're having your own good time out in outer space. But for other people, nonverbal means that they can't really access like specific language, which is like what my nonverbal subspace is like, is I get very giggly. I will talk, but I'm not like saying anything intelligible to anyone else. Like I'm just making noises. Like this is very funny because apparently I did this when I was a toddler. So make whatever, you know, meaning out of that you will. But I talk kind of like Pebbles from the Flintstones, apparently. That was what I sounded like as a toddler. And it's apparently what I sound like when I go into nonverbal subspace. And I was like, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da. Like, I just, like, I'm, like, just, it's hard for me to do it. I'm not in that frame of mind, obviously, but I kind of just, like, chitter around and say stuff, but I'm not really, like, I'm attempting to communicate, but I'm saying I'm happy and keep doing this, usually when that happens. But so some people are nonverbal, and they literally mean they can't say words, but they might be able to grunt or, like, generally make verbal indications of, like, their pleasure or displeasure. So there's degrees in it as well, so make sure you're specific about what that means to you, and then for safety precautions in place, I think it's important to be aware of the fact, and this is not a judgment on you, but there are some doms or tops that are not comfortable playing with people that go into a non-verbal subspace. That could be because they're autistic and they're really shit at reading body language and they know that, and they don't want to have to rely on just intuition or supposed intuition to be able to know when to end a scene. And they need you to be able to stay verbal, and they're going to go, oh, okay, well, either we need to play really lightly and only do things that are not going to bring you into subspace, because again, as well, like, you have to also talk about, okay, well, if you go nonverbal during subspace, like, what puts you into subspace, and should we avoid that or not? Because if you go into subspace, like, super instantly whenever you do a scene, that's very different from how you navigate around that versus somebody who only goes into subspace when you've, you know, tied them up with coconut rope, suspended them from the ceiling, you've put them in a latex maid outfit, and, you know, you're spanking them on the bottom with, like, a birch broom, you know? Like, how many steps does it take to get to the center of the subspace Tootsie Pop or whatever? How many steps does it take to get there? And so, if it's more difficult for you to get into subspace, you might be able to negotiate with somebody who doesn't really want you to go nonverbal and just explicitly avoid the things that are going to put you into that frame of mind. But if you go into it really easily at the drop of a hat and you go nonverbal, like, a lot of partners are just going to be like, That's outside my risk profile, and that's totally fine. Like, I get that. I totally understand it. Trying to rely on nonverbal body language, especially with a new partner, to be like, hey, should I end the scene now or not? Like, they're not responding to me. Or people may just have the plan that if you go to subspace, the scene stops. Which sucks, because it's kind of like stopping sex in the middle of an orgasm. But, you know, it's, if you don't, like, you could end up very much going too far, because when you're in subspace, the way that you process pain can be so different that you might end up playing to a point where you're dealing with, like, physical things that after the scene you might not, like, enjoy having to deal with. So you got to account for that. So you just got to rein it in, you know, and negotiate with your partner about what their comfort level is. Obviously, I've said that a couple times now. And maybe build on some other tools that might be easier for you to be able to access depending on how deep your subspace is. Maybe instead of having a safe word, you have a safe signal, right? Where maybe you tap twice or squeeze twice or drop a ball or ring a bell or something. Something you don't have to remember the words to be able to do, but is still a physical action that is very pronounced, easy to identify, that will let the person know it's time for the scene to stop. You can also have it be to where you have a rule that if they think you might be going to subspace or you're, you know, have a really big change in mood or something, if they check in and you don't respond, they will assume the scene should stop. And so I just think it's, you know, having protocol in place for explicit scene stopping if you become, like, there's non-verbal and then there's non-responsive. So if you're somebody who goes non-responsive, not just non-verbal, then that's like a sign for the scene to end. Or again, those safe signals like I mentioned. And, you know, just being careful about, you know, the play that brings you into subspace and making sure the other person knows, like, hey, if you do this, it's more likely I'm going to go into subspace or not. So, yeah. My safe gesture is hand number is 125. 5 is flashed and is red. So if you do like this, which is funny because like this is like 11 and signing 11, 12. But anyways, I think that's what it is. It's been a while since I've done ASL. You know, one of the first things I wanted to do when I went to college is I wanted to be an ASL translator, and then that didn't work out. So whoopsie doodles. But hand gestures are great. Something you can drop. Something is very... Oh! Somebody said they wanted to see Bandit. She's scratching at the door. So, drum roll, please. Bandit time is upon us. Oh, my chair's stuck. Okay, here we go. Is it just a baby at my door? Is that just a baby? Is that just a baby? It is. This is my little baby. So sweet. You're such a good baby. I don't have your bed in here. Your bed's in my room. Your bed's in my bedroom, honey. Hi. Did you have fun in the yard? What were you doing? What were you doing, my sweetheart? Huh? Ooh, sweetheart. You're so good. Little paparino. Little paparino. Are you having a good time? You're like, open up. Open up. It's the Furry Bureau of Investigation, and I'm here to investigate the lack of pets that I have been receiving. Anyways, she is going to be on my lap now. You might not see her, but just know that she's there. So... And she might lick my hand, and you might hear that. She likes it, yes. Sometimes I just scream at her that she's a baby. That's like, I'm just like, it's a baby. Your little baby. Yes, my little baby. She is very fluff. She's very fluff. I need to groom her tonight. That was what I was going to do after the stream. So she might be a little bit messy, okay? But it's TLC Friday. So you know what? After the stream's done, we're all going to get a little TLC. TLC was what self-care was before we had the term self-care. I'm just realizing. I had a light bulb moment. I'm like, we had the term for self-care before, like, we knew what self-care was, and the term was TLC. That's what it was. Okay, next. Did I even finish answering the question? Okay, what is it? Okay. I think I went over the safety precautions. If there's any more that I see in the chat that I haven't necessarily talked about, I think that's it. And then, yeah, just, if you're doing, I will say, because subspace can be a very vulnerable and emotional place as well, I think you have to account for that in your aftercare too. I think, if you're doing a scene where you don't go into subspace, and I want you guys to know that my dog is currently, her head is wedged between the arm of my chair and under my desk. So her head is under my desk and between, it's like this. She's shoved herself into a triangle where it's my leg and the arm of the chair and then the desk on top. She is in the corner. I don't know why she does that. She's like a rabbit a little bit that way. She's like, I gotta find the nice safe place. Find my little dog cavern. But, yeah, so, account for that in your aftercare as well. Like, if you're somebody who goes nonverbal, it can take you a lot longer to kind of come back to reality and to debrief with your partner and kind of just, feel all the things that you're supposed to, process in everyday life. So, make sure you talk about that as well. Like, okay, if I do go nonverbal, here's how to end the scene, and then here's what we need to do afterward, like maybe above and beyond what we would normally do. Oh, thank you so much, Kyle. Hey Evie, just popping in to say thank you for all the educational videos that you do. I've been watching your videos for a while now. I just wanted to say thank you. Well, thank you so much, Kyle. I really appreciate that. I love getting to these streams. I love getting to talk to you guys. I genuinely am so lucky to be able to do this as a job and, just share the joy of happy, healthy kink relationships on the internet. We love it. Okay, so let's do next question. Yeah, do not put sugar near your vagina. That's a good point. Sugar ring is different though. You can get sugared on. You Brazilians. I always kind of wondered, why isn't, you think like sugaring and like waxing would be more of a thing in kink play because it's painful. It involves body hair removal. And I just like, why? I feel like waxing and stuff, that could be a really fun part of like a sissy scene or like a forced feminization type scenario where it's like, we're gonna, in order to become a real woman, you have to remove your disgusting man body hair. Like, I just feel like there's like humiliation element to it. It's invasive, it's personal, it's kind of medical. Like, why is that not more of a thing, I'm just saying, there's opportunities there. I'm gonna do a video very soon where I talk about pervertibles, and I think I have some really fun, unique ideas that a lot of people haven't thought of for pervertibles before, because I'm very much into like skincare and body care, and I'm like, listen, beauty is pain, and we like pain in BDSM, therefore beauty is BDSM. That's the that's my thing. So I think I'm gonna have some very interesting pervertibles for you guys to experience and think about in a video soon. I don't know exactly when I'm going to do that video. I don't think I'm going to film it this weekend. It might be next weekend because this weekend I think the videos I'm going to film tomorrow or Sunday already planned out. What comes after a YouTube if YouTube fails? I probably write books, to be honest. I don't think I'd really, like, if YouTube goes away, I'd probably keep doing stuff on Patreon, but, like, there's not really any other social media platforms that are, like, super kink education friendly, so there's not really a good place for me to, like, move to if it implodes, so I'd probably just, like, focus on doing real-life educational stuff, writing books, and then probably go back to school. That'd probably be what I would do next, go to get a master's degree. Waxing would make for a great punishment, yes. I mean, honestly, if you want ideas for how to torture a guy, just look at the old Try Guy BuzzFeed videos. They are full of ideas of, like, how to torture a man. Like, so many things in there. Yeah, so I would say for nonverbal, like, communication with scenes, that can be helpful to an extent. You can't really rely on like nonverbal communication with a partner you don't know very well because everyone's nonverbal body signals are different, and that's doubly true for when you're dealing with BDSM where Like, no, stop, please don't, can mean, yes, please, I want more. And the same thing is true of our body reactions, where in certain scenes, we may want to, like, you know, curl up into a ball and, like, scream and cry and like, act very pitiful. And in other scenes, we may want to, like, laugh and giggle and dance around. And so it's very hard to just go off of nonverbal signals with a partner you don't know that well, and especially because so many people in the BDSM scene are neurodivergent. You can't really just make any assumptions, basically. So you have to have a more, if you're going to do that, you have to do more of a conversation where you talk to the person about, like, what are your tells if you're having a good time? What are your tells if you're having a good, you know, bad time, good time, you know, you need me to check in, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you do this, what should I do? And that, I think, can be a good conversation to have, but I don't think you can just say, oh, just, like, non-verbally communicate. Not to shit on that suggestion. I'm just, like, expanding it because I think it's a little bit more complicated than, like, you know, when somebody crosses their arms, that means that they're upset, you know? Like, it's a little bit more complicated. Why do you like this, little dog? Why do you always just shove your face into my arm? You just comforted by my arm. You're just like, that's what I need. Now she's decided she wants to, she now has her eyes and her top of her head rested against my arm, and her snout is underneath my elbow. So I have wet dog nose on my elbow currently. Okay, wait. Pick one body hair at a time out with tweezers. Okay, that is like... Okay, imagine you did that, but, like, the same energy as when you tell someone to, like, pick up every grain of rice on the floor after you spilled, like, a bucket of rice into the carpet or onto, like, a kitchen floor. Same energy as that. Perfect. I'm a slave and this is my first live with you. Enjoy what videos I've watched at this point. Well, I am glad you're here. Life's a Beach Vlogs. I love that name. Great stuff. Thanks for being here. Okay. I definitely missed some things. We just have too many chat messages. So I apologize if you asked, like, a question very early on. You might want to ask it again because I might have missed it before YouTube decided that I had too many chats. Whoa, there was so much censorship in that post that took me a second to process. What is the difference between sexual and non-sexual kink? The motivation behind it. I'm like, is this a trick question? The difference is one of them is sexual and one of them is not. Like, in a practical sense, how are they different? I mean, I would say if you're looking at, like, what makes up a scene, if you're looking at a sexual scene, like, the intention of it is, like, okay, there's, like, a spectrum of, like, how sexual a scene is. There's doing kinky stuff during sex, like having otherwise vanilla sex but using, like, a blindfold or restraints or handcuffs or something. There's doing BDSM with the express purpose of getting to sex. So it's like tying someone up with bondage and then having sex. Or, you know, somebody kneeling at your feet in lingerie and then putting them on the leash, taking them to the bedroom, and then having sex. Then there's mixing sex into your play, where you're doing a scene that's mostly BDSM and then adding sex into it, where it's like, coming back to bondage. You're doing a bondage scene and then using a vibrator on them. Or you're doing an impact play scene and you're alternating, like, spanking somebody on their butt with, like, sexually spanking them on, you know, their labia or on their, like, pubic mound. Or you're alternating doing, like, CBT with, like, licking somebody's balls, you know? Like, you're mixing in sexual pleasure very directly into your BDSM play. There's also scenes where the aftercare after the scene is sexual. Like, you do the scene itself doesn't necessarily involve penetration or stimulation in any fashion, though it can, but the aftercare for the scene is having sex. And then the final category of it is maybe you don't have sex, but the feeling of it is sexual and the intention is sexual and it feels very erotic while you're doing it and it mentally kind of gets you off, but you don't necessarily orgasm and you don't necessarily have sex with the person. So that's like the 7. Maybe I should make a video talking about this and talk about like the 7 different ways that like BDSM can be sexual. I'm gonna refine that idea, I think, a little bit, but I think it's maybe a good premise to start with. So give me a second here. Okay, let's see, where is my to-do list? There we go. You know, 7 different ways kink can be sexual? Question mark. Okay, so that'll be fun. So those are the ways that kink can be sexual. But when you're doing kink and it's not sexual, just to give kind of a shorter summary, you can enjoy it mentally, emotionally, and physically without it being just for sex, right? It can be physically pleasurable in the way that like an intense massage is pleasurable, or, you know, therapeutic cupping is pleasurable, or acupuncture is pleasurable, or a nice facial is pleasurable, or, you know, getting your hair braided is pleasurable. Like any other ways that like something can feel nice physically on your body without it just being about your genitals. Because it turns out the human body is perfectly capable of feeling pleasure in areas besides just on your penis. I know, it's who came up with that? Take it up with God, I guess, if you believe in God. But, you know, there's non-sexual but still physical ways of enjoying it. A lot of people find spanking to be very, like, therapeutic and relaxing. A lot of people find flogging to be very therapeutic and relaxing. You know, sort of this kind of counterintuitive way. A lot of people are sort of, like, intense sensation seekers and, like, thrill seekers. And then, like, kind of the adrenaline rush and the intensity in that perspective in the same way that people, like, bungee jumping, skydiving, jet skis, roller coasters, kickboxing, like any of those sorts of things where it gets your adrenaline up and it's like a really intense but really fun experience. BDSM can also be enjoyed from that perspective, especially when you are kind of playing in a more emotional framework. It can be very cathartic. It can be a very big release for people if they've got a lot of pent up emotions, if they've got a lot of guilt or stress they're dealing with. A lot of people report that like the number one reasons that people participate in BDSM besides sex is for stress relief. That is one of the number one things that people say is like, why do you do BDSM? Stress relief and letting go of daily worries and just getting to do something where you're there, present with your partner, letting everything else go by the wayside is one of the number one things that people really enjoy about BDSM that's not sexual. You also have people that enjoy BDSM for like the intense emotional and mental experience, but not necessarily from like an adrenaline high. That would be more like if you like watching scary movies or haunted houses, or you like it when you cry at a movie because you like the like cathartic release of like crying at a movie. Like you like directly experiencing something that provokes your emotions and the release that comes with that. It can also be a very romantic experience. It can be a very sensual experience where you feel very close and intimate with your partner in this very vulnerable way. And the vulnerability and the trust is what's really, really nice about it, is you get to be your kind of true, honest self, and the other person is their true and honest self, and you're seeing each other in your most true, real forms, and connecting in that way through that trust and honesty and that vulnerability it takes to get to that place. You know, if you're doing something like service, if you're doing something like you are helping somebody else through your BDSM, you know, you're shining somebody's shoes, you're, you know, polishing their silverware, you're helping their life in some way, you know, you're giving them a massage, a facial, whatever, that can kind of give you sort of this, there's like a psych term for this. You get kind of like the golden halo. You get like the golden halo effect, I think is what it's called. Of, you know, it's not directly pleasurable for you, but you get pleasure out of knowing that you helped somebody else, either because helping people feels good to you, or you like kind of the reputation and like the prestige that comes with having helped people, like being a helpful person. So, lots of reasons to enjoy BDSM for many, many, many reasons. A lot of people do, I think this is partly because of porn and erotica, just think that kink is a sexual experience, but really, it's a tool for intimacy. And that is what I always go back to when I try to explain BDSM to people who don't really get it, is I've actually sat down and I've listed out, okay, what are all of the BDSM activities that I can think of, and putting them into a checklist. That way people can tell, okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And it's over, as far as I can remember, it's over 200. There's over 200 individual different BDSM activities that even within them have variations. So really it's more like probably thousands of different BDSM activities and the nuances of it. But there's hundreds and hundreds of different BDSM activities that can provoke so many different feelings in people. And it's really, again, it's just a way of like expanding your intimacy. It's a way of having fun. It's a way of being vulnerable, and it's a way of being your true self. And, you know, again, like I said, like when I'm trying to explain to people who don't necessarily get BDSM, or like, what do you mean? Isn't that just sex? Like, I mean, like it can be about sex, but it can also be about so much more than sex. And I say that not to, you know, denigrate sex or people that enjoy BDSM from a sexual perspective, but I say that because it's just like it's not as necessarily always as simple as like adding handcuffs in the bedroom, and it just is there to spice up the sex. It can be its own thing on its own that's pleasurable for its own reasons. Like for me, it's like asking like, what do you mean like yoga isn't sexual? Like, I mean, I guess there's people who do yoga for like, you know, for sexual reasons, and they, you know, the process of it makes them feel sexy, but like it's also about more than just that. Like, again, all the other things I just listed, you know. Can we make fun of 50 Shades? I mean, you mean in the chat or in life? I mean, yes, you can like take the piss out of it. You can make fun of it. Like I'm not like emotionally invested in 50 Shades of Grey in any way. I just think we have to be careful if we make fun of it too much, because I think kind of like, you know, E.L. James is a piece of shit. She's a terrible person to work with by all accounts. But I think we have to be careful we make fun of it too much, especially in like community spaces, because a lot of people feel like bad about the fact that they found BDSM through 50 Shades of Grey, and that's not their fault. Like, we don't give people opportunities in life, either as an adult or as a teenager in like sex ed. We don't give people opportunities to learn about who they are sexually, or what they enjoy, or what they want from relationships, or anything like that. And so of course, like, it might take you until you're 30, 40, 50, 60 before you really know what it is that you want out of life and what you want from a relationship. And so I don't want to look down on people that found 50 Shades, you know, and then found BDSM through that. And I think we have to be careful when we're critiquing 50 Shades of Grey to keep it to like the characters and the author, and not kind of go into this like, well, those people that found 50 Shades of Grey and then they thought they would try BDSM, they're such posers. Because there was definitely a lot of talk that was, please focus on my face, camera. There's a lot of talk like that, you know, earlier on, when it was really first popular, like kind of like I would say maybe like 2012 to 2018, I think there was a lot of that sort of like, 50 Shades of Grey is awful and it's horrible, and people who like it are stupid and are bad at reading books, and they should read better books, you know. Oh, thank you, Alex. Happy 10 p.m. from the Great White North. My friend told me he didn't want to speak to me because of my fucked up political beliefs, because I like Jordan Peterson. I'm taken aback. I mean, I don't really talk about politics on my live stream, but I feel like if it's just Jordan Peterson, like, I don't know. I feel like Jordan Peterson, I have opinions about him. Like, I definitely think he has things I don't agree with, but like, I feel bad for him at the same time. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen like Jordan Peterson recently, but like, the man kind of seems like he's going through it. So I can't really help you with your friend issue with Jordan Peterson. I'm sad to say. Like, I think if you felt like you wanted to have a conversation about it and they were willing to have it, like, you might want to ask them like Why do you think? Like, why do you think he has fucked up political beliefs? Like, where is that coming from? Because a lot of people who do, like, they've made a genre out of shitting on Jordan Peterson, and so I imagine they probably have some of those beliefs, and maybe you just haven't heard them before. And, like, maybe there's a way to open up a conversation about that where you guys can either, kind of agree to meet in the middle, or maybe you guys find out that your values aren't the same. And maybe, because I think this is important, right? Is, values are important, and having, things that kind of steer us in life for the things that we believe in are important. And if you have very different values from like an intimate partner or a friend, it can be very difficult to have a relationship with them because you're going to constantly have conflict over values. So I would take that into account. But in any case, I would recommend to not necessarily take it too hard. People have very strong opinions about politics, and a lot of people think it's very, very important to their lives, and they get very worked up about it. And, if you guys aren't in alignment, and I think you guys gotta, like, break down what the assumptions are. Like, okay, what assumptions about my political beliefs did you make because I like Jordan Peterson? Because I feel like liking Jordan Peterson can mean a lot of different things to different people, and they like him for different reasons. So you gotta maybe unpack that with your friend a little bit. Alright, let's see. Next question. Okay, now I'm curious because apparently, oh no, I got yeeted in the chat again. Okay, something from Love Not Hate seems like that is a relationship issue in their relationship, and you might just have to accept it isn't going to happen. I am dying to know what that was a reference to, but I can't see it. Okay, apparently more people have similar relationships with water to me. Okay, good to know. Do you drink other liquids like soda, juice, even sparkling water, or do you just stick to plain water? I'll put fruit in this sometimes, but I do mostly just drink plain water. I like lemonade. I do sometimes drink non-dairy milk, but I tend to like more cook it in things, or like put it in a protein shake or something, than kind of like drink on its own. But no, I don't really drink a lot of just like, I don't really drink just like fruit juice. I don't really drink soda either. I'm just not, I don't really like anything carbonated. Like, I don't drink sparkling water or anything like that. It's just, it burns my nose and I don't like it. I'll try it if somebody, has it open and they want me to, like, try it. If they leave it out for long enough to where it kind of defizzes a little bit and kind of goes flat, then I'll try it. How do you tell someone, like grandma, that are dating more than, like that you're dating more than one person? You don't. I mean, I haven't had that conversation with my extended family. I just don't, like, we don't go there with, like, the multiple partner conversation because they would literally they would not be able to understand it, so I don't. There are books that you can use to help in that scenario. There's one called, I think it's when Somebody You Love Is Polyamorous. There's a similar book out there for kink as well. It's called When Somebody You Love Is Kinky. That is there to literally help you have that conversation with loved ones that are like concerned and don't really know what it means and are like, are you in a cult? Do you really want this? Is he just cheating on you and you're taking him back? Is he trying to play you? Like, all those usually questions that get asked. But I have not had that conversation, so I don't really have any sort of like personal experience to draw from for, what to do in that scenario. But there are definitely, I'm sure if you Google it and look around, I'm sure there's lots of guides online for, how to talk to your family about polyamory. That's definitely a conversation some people have. And like also it depends on your family, right? Like if your family is like super conservative or super liberal, like, if your family were hippies and they lived in a commune, versus like, whatever the opposite of that is, you know, it's going to be more or less easy to have that conversation. So, yeah. No, not CBT workbook as in cock and ball torture, although I'm sure there's a workbook for that. CBT, of course, as in cognitive behavioral therapy. Ha ha ha, the CBT joke is the funniest joke of all time, and no, it's very original. Nobody's ever made that joke before. No one's ever pointed that out before. Oh, what do you like about non-sexual impact play? Like me personally, it really depends. I like the challenge of it sometimes. I kind of get into this headspace of like, I want to be able to take what my partner is giving me and like not giving in and just trying to take it. And that can be really, really fun where it's sort of like, I'm not combative necessarily, but kind of like rising to the challenge, I suppose. I like physically it can be enjoyable, like especially certain spankings or like I'm more into like thuddy impact play, which for people who don't know what that is, thuddy impact play is more when it's in like again it's more like a deep tissue massage where you're getting more into, and I'm using my arm which is a terrible example, but you're getting more into like the deeper parts of the skin and more into the muscle, whereas stingy pain tends to be more on the surface and on the top. I find stingy pain tends to be more of like a challenge and overcoming thing, whereas like deeper, thuddier pain tends to be more like physically pleasurable, again in the same way. It's like a more you know, sort of intense massage experience that can, you know, sort of be you know, relaxing and enjoyable and also stimulating in the like, you know, sort of, I don't know, like I was gonna say like coffee in the morning, but like it can be, you know, it can just like, it's a very intense sensation. It kind of goes, whoa, like you have a sort of like really pronounced reaction to it. So that is what I like about it in a general sense. Sometimes it can also sort of be a surface thing, but I think sort of less so with pain. It's about just like, oh, I'm doing this because my partner really likes it. I find that doesn't really work for me super well mentally with impact play, but that can be something that works for other people. There's sort of also like sort of an exhibitionist aspect to it as well, where it's sort of like, you know, I like doing a scene where people like would sort of enjoy watching it and enjoy kind of seeing the suffering and stuff. So there's a little bit of that in there as well. But I think those are probably the two main reasons for the most part. I'm gonna like, okay, wait, I'm gonna just, whoa, well, that's my microphone cable. Can I just like get this to focus on my face? Just do a little bit of that. Will that work? No, I fucked it up entirely. What have I done? Camera? Camera, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me, camera. Why are you like this? I might just have to turn this off and turn it back on again. The exact moment I get a super chat. Okay. Are we back? Okay. Hopefully that worked. I don't know. We've hopefully reset the camera brain. Saw your video about crying kink. I think I may have one. Do you have any more advice on talking about it with your partner? Being the crier or the one to see someone cry? I mean, I think you sort of just follow the general protocol that you would when discussing any other aspect of like why you enjoy BDSM. I think crying is very common, especially if you're kind of more like the top or the sadist of like, I like seeing people cry, but also like a lot of people that are bottoms are like, I really like it when I can cry during a scene, and I really like it that, you know, I can have this cathartic emotional release and I don't have to worry about being shamed for the fact I'm crying. It's a big one, especially for a lot of like male bottoms, is like being able to cry in a space where that's acceptable and like sort of still masculine because you're crying from pain. But again, I would probably just have the conversation of like, and I don't know what side of the, if you mean both, if you mean either, but I would probably just say, as you would with any other part of, again, your kink experience, is say, something that I find really enjoyable about doing BDSM is I like the experience of crying. Like, how do you feel about that? Do you like scenes where you cry? Do you try to avoid it? Do you like seeing other people cry? And you just kind of start the conversation, not even maybe necessarily about yourself, but kind of gauging where your partner is at. And then kind of from there going like, yeah, I really find it really enjoyable. I love the catharsis that I get from being able to cry during a scene. I like that maybe the humiliation that comes from, like, if I start crying, I like it when people humiliate me for crying and having that be part of a humiliation scene. Or, I really like it when people cry because it's this, like, confirmation of, like, how intense the experience is, and lets me know it's, like, a top or a dom that I'm giving with the kind of experience I want to give. So, just about, like, talking about what it is that motivates you. And, of course, that requires you to understand your motivations for it. But I think for the most part, if it's trickier if you're trying to introduce this to a person that's vanilla, doesn't know anything about BDSM, and you want to introduce your, like, crying kink into your vanilla relationship, that would be way harder. But luckily, like, crying and bruises are, like, probably two of the least controversial things in BDSM that people are into. So it is fairly easy to have a conversation about it where people just go, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's fine. Let's do that. People don't tend to have very, extreme reactions to it or not be able to understand it, Oh no, I have a video idea. Buying and trying BDSM implements from AliExpress. Was on there recently and came across so many things. It's all super cheap, and so I'm curious about the quality. I feel like Pup Amp has done a video like that before, and I wouldn't want to, like, I think they did Wish. So maybe if they did Alibaba, it would be different, but I like that idea. I'm sure you have a video for this, but do you have any tips for humiliation that doesn't lean into triggering the person or hurting them long term? I don't have a video about humiliation, actually. I haven't made it yet. I know it's on the list. I'm terrible. I know Princess Kali is working on a revised version of their humiliation book, so look out for that soon. But in general, this is from Midori and how she talks about humiliation play. But you have to identify what your core pillars are. Because everyone, if you had a word cloud of, like, different values and different traits you could assign to a person, different people feel very attached to certain things and how they see themselves, right? Certain people are very self-conscious about or really strongly value their intelligence or their physical appearance, or something like, I don't know, just like a million other things, right? Like they could be really into, or not really into, they might have a lot of either self-conscious feelings about those things, or they're very important for their larger sense of self. And the goal in humiliation is to avoid knocking over those self-esteem pillars of things that are really important for who you are as a person. Like, if you're somebody who really prides yourself on being conscientious, let's say, you're like, being conscientious is one of my core things I like about myself, and it's a core part of my personality. If you did a humiliation scene that was just focused around tearing somebody down for not being nice enough or not being polite enough or not remembering somebody's birthday and kind of insulting them for not being conscientious enough or not being respectful of other people's time, like, that would be very, very mentally hard for that person to process. And so generally you kind of want to stay away from things that, like, are the person's, sort of main sense of who they are. And for certain people, they might be really sensitive to certain words or, like, not care about other words at all. Like, for certain people, they would be really sensitive to, like, being called a pig, or being called lazy, or I'm not gonna get into some of the, like, it gets into slurs and, like, insults pretty quickly, so just, use your imagination. And some people are perfectly fine with those and they don't really care either way, and it's just kind of hot no matter what. And for other people, they are very sensitive to those and maybe have specific memories around that. So one is you have to identify if there's underlying trauma. Okay, were you bullied in school? Were you bullied by a sibling? Were you ever teased or called certain names? Like, what names or terms should I avoid, using, or phrases or something I should avoid using with you? And then identify what those core pillars of self are, and then avoid touching on those, like, those pillars. So if somebody is very, like, they really, really value their intelligence, but they're kind of, again, they have sort of like insecurity things about it, I would not play, for example, with calling them stupid, or, having them take an IQ test and then like lambasting them from their IQ score, or having them take a quiz and then grading them and giving them an F and telling them that they're a failure and they're stupid, and they've been tricking everyone into thinking they're smart when they're really not. So I would just be careful about that, but that's really the main thing you need to do. And again, there's, Princess Kali has a book about it. Midori's also talked extensively about humiliation play, and that is where I would go if that is of interest to you. Okay, wow, this has gone so fast. We only have like 20 minutes left. Okay. Just know I'm very much behind on questions. I'm going to try my best to get through as many as I can, but we're definitely not going to get to every question. The request no exercise sounds so helpful for both saying no and being turned down without letting RSD take control. Exactly. It works both ways. Saying no, the practice of saying no is good, not just for you as the person saying no, but also for your partner. So that way they can practice feeling calm and not like getting activated if somebody says no to them and not feeling rejected. So it goes both ways. Yeah, and again, you can also do like other nonverbal signals. You can shake your head, you can do other stuff that maybe means no without having to actually say the word too. And that can also be helpful too. I recommend, if you're having trouble saying no, and I forgot to mention this, so I'm going to briefly say it. If you're having trouble saying no and you want to get better at it, I would also recommend like having additional tools available, like having basically multiple fail safes. So that way, if you're like, oh, well, maybe I won't be able to say the word no, maybe you are, you plain English, you say no means no, you have a regular safe word like red or safe word, and then you also have some kind of nonverbal signal on it, like shaking your head back and forth really fast 3 times, or tapping or pinching or squeezing. Just give yourself multiple options to be able to say no. So if you're in the moment and you start to feel really uncomfortable and like closed up, hopefully at least one of those things feels safe enough for you in the moment when you're activated to be able to actually do it. Found out recently the word disappointment, or the phrase I disappointed someone, made me crumble and cry. I had to have immediate aftercare. I had no idea it was a trigger. Exactly. And that's one of the things you have to have a conversation about if you're getting into humiliation play, is part of the risk of doing it, especially early on when you don't really know potentially what, is going to work for you or not. You have to be aware that there's going to be landmines you can step on. You can talk and talk and talk. You can introspect. You can write things down. You can do whatever you want to try and avoid that being a problem. But at the end of the day, there's always the potential to find something that you didn't even know was there. And so if you don't know it's there, you can't tell your partner to avoid it, right? And that's why it's called a landmine. So hopefully you got the aftercare needed. It's good that you stopped the scene. But yeah, that's part of it. There's always going to be that risk that you're not going to know something's there, and it's going to end up being a really big deal and, really affect the scene, or, just be overwhelming in some way. I totally get that. So, yeah, I'm with you there, and that's one of the risks of humiliation play. Would I say humiliation play is edge play? I think I'm comfortable saying humiliation play is emotional edge play, because you are very much playing on the edge of, like, somebody's self-esteem and feelings. So that can get very intense very quickly, for sure. I already do only clear coating on my nails. That's what this is. It's a strength treatment that's also a clear coat. Okay, I think I already answered this, but just to read the question, what normally delineates sexual from non-sexual kink activities? Is spanking sexual, or is it more of a sex acts genital stimulation thing? I would say it's intention, more so than particular behaviors. I think there's ones we can all agree that are like obviously sexual, like giving somebody oral stimulation is sexual. Like using a vibrator on somebody is probably sexual. Like, there's ones we can fairly confidently say that's probably sexual. But even things like CBT or pussy spanking or nipple clamps, things that are using typically like erogenous zones or genitals, they might be using those parts, but they might not necessarily be sexual, which sounds very weird. But you can also there's this sort of layer of submission where your body's desexualized, but your body is basically being used for the at your partner's pleasure, and that means they're like torturing you and doing stuff to you, and like they don't care if it's your nipple or your elbow or your back or your butt or whatever. Like, it's not necessarily sexual for them. It's not necessarily sexual for you. It's just like, this is a place where I can get stimulation. And, you know, as somebody that doesn't, you know, do BDSM in a sexual way, generally speaking, unless a partner wants to do that for some reason, you know, I've done stuff like I've done, you know, like pussy spanking before. I've done that, but I don't process it in a sexual way. It just like is a different type of like impact sensation. Like, I don't know, that sounds weird. But I think really it's intention, because you can look at the same scene and it could be, you know, spanking on the bottom and being a discipline scene and wearing a schoolgirl, you know, all that stuff. And one couple can do that and it can be very sexual for both of them, very intensely sexual in like a fetishistic way. And then a different couple can do that exact same scene, but they're doing it because it's fun, and they just like, they think it's, they like wearing costumes, they're both theater nerds, you know, they think like, you know, they like the power maybe of the spanking, like the other, you know, the feeling of having a warm bottom, or maybe the exhibitionism of it, of like other people watching, but it's not like processed in a sexual way. So it's hard to say that like certain like activities like spanking is generally sexual or not. I would say, like, there are a lot of people, like especially male tops, that do bondage in a very sexual way, but I would say for the majority of female bottoms, it's not mostly sexual. And there's a lot of spanking tops that do it as very sexual for them, and there's a lot of spanking bottoms where it's not sexual for them. So it's hard to just sort of say that one activity is. Again, it's more of the intention, I think, than anything else, unless it, like, you know, is a sex act, and then, you know, whatever. Okay, if you're getting mad at me for not answering your questions, there's 150 people in this live stream, okay? I'm doing my best to get to every question. You being a demanding little bitch is not gonna get me to answer your question any fucking faster, okay? Listen, I'm gonna be a really mean humiliation top right now. I'm gonna call you the fuck out on this live stream. If you guys complain to me about me not answering your fucking questions, I will definitely not answer them. So I am trying my best to get to every single question. If I don't get to it, again, there's a bunch of people in this live stream. Use a super chat if you want to, or don't. And I can't promise that I'm gonna get to it. This is not an Evie Lupine stream where she stays strapped to the fucking chair until she answers everyone's individual question, which I can't do because the chat goes fast enough to where I typically don't go through answering every single question before, like, YouTube, you know, gets rid of the first, like, couple lines of questions, or you know, first kind of 10-20 minutes of a chat, because it goes too fast. So, I know I'm giving people a free dom session, but I can't help it. Like, I'm just like, don't be demanding. Like, I am doing this for free. I am spending my Friday nights not going on a date, not doing BDSM. I'm spending my Friday nights answering your questions out of the goodness of my heart. So, like, if you want me to answer your question, be patient, get into the stream early, or shut up and sit down. It's like... No, I'm not, for the mods and whoever, like, it's not your fault. I just am like, I can't, like, I'm not a customer service agent. This isn't a Walmart. Like, don't bitch at me, okay? It's not gonna get you anywhere. I'm sorry. This isn't going to corporate. You're not gonna be able to file a complaint with my boss. I'm the boss. If you act demanding, I'm not gonna answer your question. Anyways, moving on. Let's answer a nice person's question. Who deserves it because they're respectful and patient? And for the record, when we get to the last 15 minutes of the stream, I do give people a 15-minute warning and an opportunity to ask their question again in case they didn't get to it. So, just FYI. I try to give everyone every opportunity, but don't always get there. Yes, I have seen Love and Leashes. I watched part of what is it? Dogs wear pants, or do dog wear pants? I I've seen part of it. I didn't watch all of it. I have watched Love and Leashes. I know I've been saying forever that I'm gonna make a video about it, but copyright YouTube is just a nightmare. So I haven't actually done a review of it yet. So the rules are below. They're in the description box. The only place the rules could be. They're in the description box. It is not specifically in the rules, but it is understood by like active members of my community that I've been asked 20 million times about like, have you seen this BDSM movie? Have you watched this? And the answer is yes. Unless it is an obscure Japanese language only, you know, German thing that's never gotten a dub. Like, I've pretty much seen it. So, like, the answer is yes. I don't even think Love and Leashes and Dogs Don't Wear Pants are even like comparable movies. Like, I gotta be honest, they're so different from each other. Like, I can't be like, oh, which one's better? Because they're just so different. Like, I enjoyed Love and Leashes more, but the tones of the two movies are so different, I don't think I can really compare the two. Dogs Don't Wear Pants was so terrible that I had to watch the other ones as aftercare. I mean, I know a lot of people who really enjoy that movie that recommended it to me, but I don't think it was just the vibe that day when I tried to watch it. It's like kind of dark. That's what I remember from it mostly. They're not related movies whatsoever. They're like, the one of them I think is either like maybe German or Belgian, and the other one is Korean. So they're about as different as they could possibly be. Oh, it's from Finland. That's what it is. Yes. So sorry, Finland. Even more opposite, I feel like. Ba-ba-da-da. Okay, sorry, I'm just scanning for questions, and we're having a lot of like back and forth chatting, which is great. I'm just trying to make sure I'm trying to focus on getting the questions and not just like reading out random chat stuff. Yeah, real talk. I once went deep into subspace. I didn't know which way was up and couldn't communicate beyond single words. It's a thing that happens. It's a thing. Yes. Yes, okay, we're getting to the part where everyone's up bandit. Good. I have a marker for him out in the chat. Is she getting grayer than she used to be? Honestly, I feel like for, you know, she's 10. I feel like she hasn't really gone that gray in the muzzle compared to a lot of dogs, but she's also like... I did also use a brightening shampoo on her, so it might actually just be that you're seeing more of the white undercoat and she just looks brighter. That could be it. Are you excited for fall? I am. I really enjoyed this summer. It's much warmer than it usually is, and I've really enjoyed that. I like hot weather when it's hot. I like the fall. I wish winter would fuck off. I know that I'm going to be sad, you know, once we get past like the first part of fall and we get more into like actual cold, wet, rainy weather here for the foreseeable future. But I do enjoy the fall. You probably haven't seen Tops and Bottoms because it's not available anywhere. I saw it on Ontario Public TV around 2001, and basically no one has the rights to it anymore, so it's just lost the time. Listen, the idea of BDSM lost media is very fun to me. I love that. That sounds like a good time. I don't like winter. No, I really like the summer. I love being outside. I'm a summer baby. Can't help it. Oh, Paddington says hi to Bandit. Paddington's nickname is Big Bear. He is half Great Pyrenees and 140 pounds. Oh my god. That sounds like a great dog. Hello, Paddington. Oh, the Furry Bandit of Investigation. That is even better than Furry Bureau of Investigation. I'll remember that for next time. Well, right now, the Furry Bandit of Investigation is taking a nap on my blanket, so she's chilling. She was so needy last night. She was like up and down. She wanted on the bed and off the bed and on the bed and off the bed. And then she wanted outside at like 6 a.m., which is like way earlier than normal. And then she wanted outside again at like 8:30. And it was like, oh my gosh. Like, she was like, she did not settle down last night, which is very unusual for her. Am I missing? I feel like I missed a question. Oh, okay, I did, because I didn't have a question mark. Okay, this is one thing as well. If you don't put a question mark on it, I may not actually see your question. So, yeah, I am trying to scan it. I look for question marks basically. So, how do you explain compersion to someone who just doesn't get it? I mean, I don't know. I just feel like you have to keep it simple. I think that's like if you overcomplicate it and try too hard to explain it, it can actually make it harder to understand because then it sounds more complicated. Like compersion is happiness for other people's happiness. That's all it is. Super, like, again, keep it simple. Don't make it too complicated, and that's what you got to do. So, yeah, that's how I would define it. But if they don't get it after that, they're like, wait, how do you feel happy at other people's happiness? Like, that's not necessarily because they don't understand what it is. They just don't understand how somebody could feel that, which is a different. There's, I don't understand what this word means, and there's, I don't understand how other people could feel this, which is a different question and a different problem, you know? I feel like most of us live the weather of the season we're born in. I was a January baby and love the cold and hate summer. There might be some truth to that. There might be. Oh, thank you for the update. Not a question, just an update. I was in here a few times. Remember the polyam guy and the monog guy who refused to learn or read anything? I'm a single happy Pringle now. Yippee. Well, congratulations. Onward to happier, healthier pastures, I hope. And thanks for the update. I really appreciate it. I've been vegan for a long time. I've been vegan for 3-4 years at this point, I think. And I was vegetarian before that. So I've been vegetarian. I was vegetarian starting when I was 19. So, you know, and then vegan after that. So it's been a while. No regrets. No regretty spaghetti over here on the vegetarian or on the vegan stuff. Oh, for Eastim? Yeah, so if you asked a question about Eastim, I don't answer questions about that because, one, I don't like it as a bottom. I've done some stuff with tens units that I've enjoyed, kind of like okay, not enough to do it for my own sake, but to do it if maybe a partner wanted to do it as part of a larger scene. But I don't like enjoy the sensation of like violent wands or things like that. So I don't like know about a lot about them from a bottoming perspective, and I haven't taken any classes about it. But if I do find somebody that knows a lot about, you know, e-stim, electroplay, whatever you want to call it, I will definitely have them on the channel to talk about it. But I haven't found that person yet. And if you have been enjoying the stream, please do give it a like. We're almost done. We're at the end here, so I'm going to try my best to get through some more questions. Let's see where we're at here. I feel like I need a little tissue. Give me a second. Hi, little dog. Let's get his cooch past you. I don't know why it is when I do these live streams, my nose starts to run. But sometimes, you know, it is a thing that happens occasionally. Okay, so yeah, therapeutic impact play is really nice. I do agree. It can be very fun. Does anyone here beat to the beat? My favorite impact scenes are this guy who flogs and paddles to the beat of music. Oh yeah, I love that. I think that that is really fun. I don't like necessarily do that. I've done a couple of scenes where that's happened, but not as like the focus or on purpose. But I think that kind of scene can be really fun, and I enjoy it from like a sensation perspective because it's a very like sensory experience to have like, you know, sort of the physical aspect of it and then the auditory aspect of it kind of go together in sync is really nice. I haven't really talked about Joker or like laughing tops, but I have talked about bratty tops, and I feel like at least one of the subtypes of like bratty tops probably goes along with that, I'd imagine. Okay, here's the thing. If you keep answering, if you keep asking a question and I don't answer it, it's because I don't want to answer the question. I am not obligated to answer any of your questions. I am doing this for fun. If I don't want to answer a question, I'm going to skip over it. I have a policy, and if this isn't in the fucking disclaimer in my thing, it should be. I'm going to just check, because it should be in my, where can I see? Okay, edit maybe? Or is it my description? Number 4, I reserve the right to refuse to answer any question without an explanation provided. So if you keep asking it and it's been 4 or 5 times, just assume I don't want to answer it. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're a bad person or I hate you or you shouldn't be in this chat. It just means that I don't give advice about it or don't want to answer it or don't feel like it today or I've answered that question 20 times. I don't want to answer it again. And that's why. So. Just don't spam the chat. That's the first thing I said, right? Don't spam the chat. Just give everyone the opportunity to ask a question, okay? Okay, we're on to the Jordan Peterson stuff. My favorite aftercare in theory would be hair brushing, head petting, but I have curly hair, so it just frizz up. Oh, curly hair struggles. Yeah, I get that. But you're right. Hair brushing is great aftercare. It's true. Do you have a podcast or know of any good ones? I don't have a podcast. Long ago, I had a podcast many, many years ago. It has been defunct for a long time. But I did, for the podcast that I would recommend, I really like, for BDSM stuff, there's Off the Cuffs. There's Loving BDSM. I think Dan and Dawn Williams have a podcast as well. I haven't really listened to that one. There's Life on the Swing Set. There's American Sex. Hannah Witten also has her own podcast as well. There's lots of podcasts out there. So that's just a couple of names just real quick. But that's the short list, I suppose, of BDSM podcasts I was aware of. If you were to play another animal other than a pet dog, what would it be? Bunny or cow? Those are the two. I will not be explaining anymore. Yes, the American... listen. At some point, I may be going on the American Sex podcast. I'm just putting it out there. Just putting the feeler out there. Might be going on there at some point. Might also be going on Hannah Witten's podcast. Just saying. I have a video about demisexuality if you don't know what it means. So I'm running out of time in the chat to be able to give in, sort of detailed answers, but I do have a video about demisexuality. If you want to know, if you haven't seen it yet, it is on my channel. Do you have a video on good books to start with when getting into kink? I don't have a video about it, but in the FAQ below, I do have a post that is like a complete list of like BDSM books for you to check out. It's hard to recommend specific ones because what everyone wants to get out of kink or what their motivations for kink are different, and different books are going to resonate with them. So I just recommend like picking out a couple of books that seem interesting, and then if they don't seem interesting to you when you start reading them, then drop them and pick up something else. But yeah, I don't have a recommendation list in particular, but I do have like kind of an overall list. How do you handle not being able to introduce loved ones to family because you're poly and they'd be against it? I find it hard to imagine loving people and not being able to bring all of them for Xmas. Well, I find that oftentimes in poly that's maybe less of a problem than you might imagine, because typically people that are poly have multiple relationships with other people, so it's already kind of a nightmare to schedule the holidays and be like, well, my partner's partner has 4 other partners, and my other partner also has 4 other partners, and so like who prioritizes going to who for what holidays and when and for how long actually gets fairly complicated. And so I haven't like had the problem about people being like, oh, I really want to see your family for Christmas, but I can't, because they either already have another nesting partner that they're going to Christmas with both of their families, or they have multiple other partners already and they're already doing a world tour of like 4 other people's places they're going to, or they don't really like care about that stuff very much. They're like, I like kind of being by myself. I like being with my own family, and I'm not really into like necessarily, taking away my like limited family time with my own family to go see other people. So it hasn't really been a problem for me personally. But obviously if that is a big problem for you or other relationships that you would be in, then yeah, that would definitely need to be a conversation. Okay, I'm going to get to one more question, and that's going to be it for tonight, guys. A piece of dense backer foam. Oh, interesting. Gives a deep thud without an intense sting. It will leave a bruise. Duly noted. Okay, we're into the AliExpress suggestion. Okay, I answered the humiliation one already. Watch the Safe Word has done like 4 Wish videos now. They're all so much fun. Okay, well, if people like them, as long as I'm not gonna... Like, I'm always afraid of, like, what if I do something too similar and people accuse me of, like, stealing ideas, I don't want that to happen. But if, they're not gonna accuse me of stealing ideas, then I will definitely do it at some point. so I don't give medical advice, so I'm not answering the one about monkeypox. But What's a Safe Word does have a video about monkeypox they did with a doctor, I believe. So maybe go and check that one out if you want to know more about monkeypox. Tips for dealing with pain during waxing. IDK did a video about increasing pain tolerance and wondering if it can translate into vanilla stuff. Love the waxing results, but can't handle the pain. I do actually have a video that I filmed forever ago that I ended up just releasing on Patreon. I've been meaning to redo it. I really, especially if you're getting intimate body parts done, I really very strongly recommend sugaring over waxing. Sugaring, it's better on your epidermis. It's like, it works better, like because basically with hard wax, especially if you're doing like strips and stuff, it takes off the top layer of your skin with it, and that can cause a lot more irritation. It can cause, there to be more likelihood of infection, other things. So I don't recommend like hard like wax, like European style waxing. I really recommend sugaring. That can be a lot better. Depending on where you live, it might be harder to find, but lots of people do sugaring. Take some kind of mild painkiller maybe before it if you're just if you're okay with that, or it works with your medications, whatever. I think there's no shame in taking a baby aspirin or something before that. I think that should be fine. You can use topical numbing creams before you go to an appointment as well, as long as you can wipe them off before you actually go to the appointment. That can also be helpful as well. And then just focus on, like, oftentimes your technician will talk to you while you're getting it done, and just like focus on the conversation with them. Breathe. Oftentimes they know it's going to be a sensitive area. They'll tell you like when to breathe in and when to breathe out. And typically it's the same thing with getting piercings done as well, actually, is you want to breathe out as they're removing the hair. You want a deep breath before when they're applying it, and then deep exhale when they're removing it. And that can help like with the pain processing part of it. But really, like, the more regularly you get it done, and especially if you're getting it done with sugaring, I've noticed like the first time I got sugared versus like the most recent time I got sugared was completely night and day. A good technician that has good technique as well will definitely also make a big difference. All right, so these are all the questions I have time for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for being here. We do these streams every Friday at 6 o'clock. If you want to make sure to not miss them, go ahead and subscribe, turn on those notifications. I will have a video for you all on Sunday, so look forward to that. It's going to be another YouTube video so soon. And I think there's any other sort of like announcements, anything else to know about. But yeah, that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for being here. This was an awesome stream. So sorry I couldn't get to everyone's questions. We get a lot of questions. I try my best to answer all of them, but I do try to answer them thoroughly. So it's, it just takes us a while, a little bit. But, hopefully I'll see you next Friday. If you didn't get your question answered, try again, or maybe ask a different one next time. And I will see you all very soon. Let me see. Will Bandit come up for saying goodnight? Little baby. Hi, sweetheart. Do you want to say goodbye to the people? Come here. Come here. Come on, sleepy baby. Come here. Oh, no. You're rolling on the floor. Come here. Come on. Oh, no. Okay, belly rub. Hi, come here. I'm in here. Come on. Oh, she's like, no, I want to come to you. You want to you, little one. All right, there we go. All right. Do you want to say goodnight to the people? You want to say goodnight? Are you fluffy baby? You say goodnight to the people? Alright. Sleepy girl's like, I just want to lay down. Stop holding me. I know, I interrupted your nap, but I think it was worth it. Alright, that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Hopefully I will see you next Friday. And until then, have a great rest of your week. Bye.